Hello everyone, this is Kenneth Brenny from Tech and welcome back. So in this second part of the Git series, we are going to look at basically we working in our working directory through to we trying to commit or trying to push something onto a remote repository. So we are going to go through this step by step. So we are going to start off working in the working directory. Then we are going to move on to the staging area where we are going to be discussing some few things. And of course, we are going to see them as we work along. Then we are going to do some commits into our local repository. And then finally, we'll look at how we push code onto a remote repository, in which case GitHub. So every stage in this Git workflow will be extensively covered in this particular video. However, the import of this video is to let us walk through the entire process, and then in the third video we'll come back to each and every stage and go into details, some of the things we can do there. So at this point we are going to work with Git, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto my desktop, and as you can see over here I have this folder created project. It is an empty folder. I don't have anything in here, and we're going to start working in this. So I'm going to come into my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to open this app or bring this folder in here. So I'll click on File and navigate through my system. It's on desktop, and here we have this project folder. So I'll click on Select Folder. So here we have the folder selected. Let me close this and let me just create in a file over here. So I'm going to call this, for instance, app.py. Okay, so here we have the app.py file created over here. Now what I want to do is I'm going to bring my terminal in here so that we can start working with Git. Now basically in Git, most of the time we are going to work in this terminal, but then I'm going to show you other means, maybe in the third video, where we are going to use, you see that we have this source control button over here, and when I click on it, we can just be clicking buttons over here to be working with Git, but that's going to be on a later video. But now let's work with Git in the terminal, because working with Git in the terminal will give us the leverage and the opportunity to see things under the hood other than just clicking buttons. So let's go back to some of the things we had over here, where we are going to look at how we initialize a Git repository. Now we do the Git init to do so. So back here, I'm simply going to type in Git init this way, and I'll press enter. So you could see that I have over here says initialized Git repository in C, and this is actually the project folder I have in here. So now I'm going to take you back onto our folder. The Git repository has been initialized and it is sitting somewhere here. Let me just view this large icons over here, but then we don't see it, and we don't see it because by default some files will be hidden. Maybe you may have it showing up as at this point, but then what you can do is you click on view, and where you have hide items, when you check this, you see that we have this Git repository folder that has been created. Now when you open this app, it contains a lot of files over here. You don't have to worry so much about whatever thing that's happening in here, but basically every tracking and the management of whichever code you'll be writing will be done in this particular folder, so we don't have to delete this as well. So we can come back into our working environment, and one of the commands I would also want to show is what you have over here is we can check the status. So we can do git status, and now if I'm to come in here and do git status, type in git status and press enter, we get this message over here, and this is very important. It says no commits yet, and we have on track files, and it is even giving us some help. So sometimes you don't need to commit a lot of these things into memory. You just have to follow along, and a lot of these things are going to make sense. So it says we can use git add and the file name to include in what will be committed, and we can also do some few things over here, and it says nothing added to commit, but on track files present, and that's what we see over here. So as you can see, when you are using VS Code, and it's important to use VS Code at this point so that you kind of have a feel of how things are actually happening. So you could see that we have this U symbol or U character showing up over here. When I hover around this, it shows that this is untracked, and that's what you see over here as untracked. So now what I'm going to do is I want to make Git start tracking this file. So I can simply do git add. And when I do git add, I need to specify the name of that file. So in this case, it's going to be app.py over here. So when I do git add and the name of the file, as in this case, app.py, and press enter, you could see that things are going to change. And now the U has now changed to A. So currently when I hover around this, you see that we have over here as index added. So this has been added to the index. What this basically means is this has been added to the staging area. So everything happening over here is being tracked. We can of course check this by doing a git status. And now when I press enter, we get the same prompt over. It says that no commits yet. Now changes to be committed. So currently we are in this particular stage where we are in our working directory. Now we've done a git add and the name of that file, which is app.py, and we are now in the staging area. And it says that no commits yet. So before we commit, or before you go into the local repository, which is that folder I showed over here, this folder, it is still in this folder, but then before we commit it into that local repository, we need to do a git commit, and it is helping us. Now we can untrack this, okay, by using the git rm -- cached and the name of the file to unstage it or to take it out of the staging area. But we're not going to do that. Let's now just run through this process of now committing our file. So now if I'm to do a git and commit, and in this particular instance, I'm going to do -m, and -m is basically going to be the git commit message. So I'm going to say first commit over here. And now when I press enter, we get this prompt over here. It says 1 file changed, 0 insertion, 0 deletion, and it created this mode, and we have app.py over here. And currently you can see that we don't have any U or any A showing up over here. All right, so let me quickly show this, because if you are doing this for the first time, you would need to do some few things, and that's what you see over here. That you are supposed to set up your let's say your credentials, actually, so that Git will actually know who you are. So if you are doing this for the first time, you are going to see a prompt over there which basically says please tell me who you are or something like that. So you then have to simply type in git config, then a space -- global, then you give a space, then you type in user.email, and you can put your email in a quotation mark over here. So there's the example you see. So from there you press enter, and then you do a git config -- global user.name, and you can type in your name over here, so that Git knows that you are the one working on your system. All right, and in fact you do this just once and you are good to go. Now I've already done it, that's why I didn't get the prompts. And if you have been working with Git, you are not going to encounter this every time. Back again, if I'm to do a git status and press enter, we see that we are on master branch, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So currently Git is now tracking this and we don't have any problem. If you are to push this onto our remote repository, everything is going to go. But now let's start writing some code over here. And over here, I'm just going to do, for instance, a function. And I'm going to call this add function. And I'm going to pass in these parameters x and y. And I'm just going to say return x plus y, which is going to return the sum of whichever thing we pass over here. So now when I do this and save this, now let me come back here, and currently you can see that things are beginning to change. Okay, now we have this M showing up over here with a different color. Now when I hover around this, it says that this is modified because Git is tracking this. Any change we make, it will track it and know that no, this is a modification and this is something happening that wasn't previously added. So now if I'm to come in here and, for instance, do a git status, to check the status of our branch, we see that changes not staged or commit. We haven't staged this because we haven't done a git add of this current change that we have done. So you could see that we have this app.py which has been modified. So currently it is saying that no changes added to commit. Now we can use git add and or git commit a to actually add this to the staging area. So now what I'm going to do is, and currently we are still in this working directory. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git commit and I'll do -m. And over here, the commit message, it is very important because it should be something descriptive to tell whoever is going to work on our code or whoever is going to review our code or even ourselves that this is what was actually done. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say added add function to code. So this is my commit message, and now when I press enter, it says that on master branch we need to do this and stuff. Okay, so what we needed to do was to first of all commit it first, okay, or add it to the staging area actually. So I'm going to do git add and I'm going to say app.py. So when I press enter, it is now going to change to, let's say that's a, which it should be changing by now. But now let's do a git commit and I'll do a -m and I'll put inside of this message added add function code. So now I'll press enter and now we could see that things are beginning to change over here, and it says that one file changed and there were 2 insertions. Okay, now these 2 insertions are actually the 2 lines of codes that were written over here. Now if I'm to come back here and do a git status, it tells us that on branch master, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So basically all that we have been doing as at this point is navigating through our working directory onto the staging area where we do a git add and the name of the file, and now we do a git commit to actually commit it into our git or our local git repository. So there are some few things I would want to share with you, and that's, so far we've used a git init to initialize. We basically use this once, and now we've done a git add and the name of the file. We've also looked at git status, we've looked at git commits. Now let's look at what we have over here as git log, and we use git log to check the logs or the history. So now if I'm to come in here, we've done a number of commits, so at least 2. So if I'm to do a git log and press enter, this is going to show me some few things over here. And currently you could see that I have a commit ID. So this is the commit ID, and this is what I refer to as over here as and let me just show you that quickly. So this is the commit, okay, and over here I said a commit is a snapshot. So all this while we are taking snapshots of the changes you have made to the files in a Git repository. Now each commit has a unique identifier known as the secured hashing algorithm 1 or the SHA-1 hash that allows you to track your changes over time. So this is the commit ID, which is going to be unique. So this uses secure hashing algorithm, and you could see that we have the author, which I initially set, and the date over here. Now sometimes it can be very difficult knowing which particular commit were you working on and stuff like that, and that's why the commit message comes in handy. So clearly, as you can see, I have added for add function to code. So I know that, okay, this is what was actually done to add that particular add function. And over here, this was my first commit, and that was exactly what I had over here. So this is looking good. Now let me do a little more to our code base, and I'm just going to, for instance, create other functions. So I'm going to call this, let's say, sub function. All right, so I'm done over here. I've added a couple more functions over here, and I'll just walk you through. So now we have the sub function, which is actually performing the arithmetic subtraction operation over here. Then we have the div function, which is also doing the arithmetic division operation over here. Then we have the prod function, which is also doing the products of these two numbers. And finally, we have the power function, which is looking at the power of whichever parameters we pass in there. So this is looking good, and clearly you could see that there's some modifications, so we are being prompted. And this is good for our eye, so that at least we know that, okay, there's something to do. So what is this then to do? We are still in this working directory. So in order to move from the working directory onto the staging area, we can just do a git add. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a git add and the name of the file, which is then going to be app.py, and I'll press enter. So now I've added this, and now I can do a git commit. And this time around, the message is going to be very large if I'm going to say I added the add function, or sorry, the sub function and all these things. So now this is what I'm going to do. When I do a git commit and don't do a -m and bring our message and just do a git commit and press enter, we get this prompt showing up over here. And this is actually good because we get the opportunity to rather insert, let's say, a very long message. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in I over here, and you can see I have this insert showing up over here, and I'm going to press enter. So over here, I can type in a very long message. Okay, so this, I can start off with the heading of the message, which was, let's say, completed arithmetic operations of all functions. So this is looking good. And now under this, I can type in the message, which can be, so I can say added, and I'm going to say sub function. So this is a very good message. Okay, so over here we have the heading, and we have some kind of message, which is going to be very descriptive. So now after typing this, I need to press in escape. So I'll press in escape. What I then need to do now is I'll press in escape again, and I'll do a colon over here. So as you can see, there's a colon over here. Now I'll do a WQ, which is like write and quit. So I'll press enter, and now we have this showing up over here. Now in that same way, if I'm to do a git log to check the history, and I'll press enter, we now have quite a number of things showing up over here. So currently, this is the completed arithmetic operations of all functions, and that's what you saw me typed over there. So if you want to have a long and elaborated message, you just go in there and type in your message. But then you can cut this by just doing a git commit -m and passing your short message over there. Now you could see that I have other commits which are not showing up yet. Now if I'm to drag this a little bit, and if you want to show all, you just have to press enter, and everything is going to show. So currently you could see that I have 3 commits. The first one was the first commit, as you see over here. The second one was the added the add function, which I think I did a mistake over here, which is add function to code, and we are going to change some of these things, don't worry. And then we also had this commit over here. So everything is looking good. Now this is within our local repository. Everything is looking good. Now let's just quickly move on to where we are going to put it on our remote repository. Now in the second part of the video, we are going to revert back, or we are going to go back into the nitty-gritties of some of these things. So don't worry, we are going to come back. So now our code is working perfectly, and we would want to now put it on a remote repository so that everybody can see our code. So over here, we are going to go into GitHub. So I'm going to type in github.com. I'll leave this link in the description. And then if you don't have a GitHub account, it's a very simple process. You can click on sign up, and this is going to lead you to this page. It's a very simple process. You just type in your email, then you click on continue, and the rest is history. But then I already have an account, so I'm quickly going to sign in my case. So I'm going to type in my email address. So I have my email and my password, and I'll click on sign in. And here we have my Git repository. So this is actually my Cambridge Tech repository, where within the context of SN207, we came to do some few things over here. So normally what I do is when I come in here, your interface may be a little bit different because I have quite a number of activities going on over here. Now, what I want to do is you click on this and you can see your profile over here. So just click on your profile and this will send you to your profile page where you have your name. And if you don't have, there will be an avatar image over here. You can change these things. These are just secondary. Now you have these repositories, and currently you can see that I have 57 repositories over here. And this was the previous videos, the Essence Programming for Engineers materials I uploaded over here. Now we are going to upload what we have been working on this far over here. And in order to do that, I would want to create a new repository over here. So I'll click on new. And this is a very simple process. So it is asking me the repository name, and I'm going to say Git workflow. So that's going to be the name of the repository. And if your name is right and it doesn't conflict with any of these naming conventions, you could see that it is going to be checked that, okay, now you can make this work. Now you have the option of making it either a private or a public repository. Now just make it public so that anybody can see your code. And now we are going to have some description over here. So this will definitely be some descriptive notes about the project or anything that describes the project. Now you can add in a README file and stuff like that. You can also add in a git ignore file. We are going to look at in the second video, so don't worry. So basically this is what you need, the name of the repository, and maybe this is optional actually, but then I just added this. And now let's click on this create repository. So this is going to be created, and as you can see, fundamentally, you just need about 3 or 4 lines of code in order to get your code from your computer onto that remote repository. And the first one is the git init, which we actually use to initialize the Git repository. Now there's git add readme.md, which it is optional. We didn't add that. Now we went on to do a commit, and you could see that it has first commit over here. Then it created a new branch. Don't worry about this. But then what we need now is if we want to push this, currently this is the point we are on this local repository. We want to push it onto the remote repository. So if we want to achieve that, we then need to come and more or less copy this URL as we have over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the whole of this. So I'll do a Control-C over here. Then I'll come in here and into my terminal, I'll just come and paste this over here. So here we have git remote add origin and the URL. Let me just collapse this so that we have this on one line. So here we have git remote add and the origin. The origin is like the remote repository, and this is going to be the link that you cannot guess. You just have to go in there and go and copy it and bring it here. So now when you do this, you just press enter over here, and it doesn't show anything, but then it is going. And the last thing we need to do is to come in here and do a git push u origin master. So over here too, you can just come and copy this and you just bring this up over here. So git push, we are now pushing it onto the remote repository. And the origin, in this case, they are saying main. Now they are saying main because of what they did over here. You will see that they created a branch called main. We are going to talk about branches over here, but then our branch is the master branch. And before we even do that, let me just show you quickly. And if I'm to do a git branch this way and press enter, we see that the name of our branch is master. That's the name of the more or less the default branch name. So don't worry so much about this. So instead of we doing what they did, instead of we doing what they did over here, let me just copy it once again. So Control-C and do a Control-V over here. Instead of we doing git push -u origin main, we are going to do -u origin master, because master is the name of our branch as we have it over here. So now I'll press enter. And we don't seem to have any problem over here. Now currently on my system, things may be a little bit different from your system. If this is the first time you are doing this, then it is going to prompt you to enter your username and your password so that it actually knows that you are the one working on it. Don't worry. But in my case, everything goes through, and that will only happen if you work on this a number of times. So you could see that the message over here says that some few things were done, and it compressed this file, and writing objects and a number of things. You don't have to worry. But then the most important thing is, it says that branch master set up to track the remote branch from master from origin. So now if you see a resemblance of this message, then you should know that everything is looking good. So now we have this showing up over here. Now in order to see this properly, when I do a refresh of this, we are going to see that we have this app.py showing up over here. This is a remote repository. You can actually, and I'll leave this link in the description, you can actually do a copy of this and actually go and check, and we're going to see this code. And now when I open this up, this on GitHub, we see the code I have over here on my local repository showing up in my remote repository. So this is going to be the end of this video. In this video, we've actually looked at going through the Git workflow, writing our code from the beginning to putting it on a Git repository. And if there's anybody we are working with, that person can see our code, that person can make changes and stuff like that. We are going to look extensively into that in the second video. Now you find value in the content I'm putting out over here, kindly support my work by subscribing to the Cambro Tech channel. Also, don't forget to hit on the notification button so that anytime I release a video, you'll be duly notified. Share this video with friends and family who find this content very useful. At Cambro Tech, we say learn programming. You can do it. Bye bye, and catch you in the next video.